Hey guys, my guest tonight, Mark Biltz, is going to be talking about the upcoming eclipse and biblical prophecy. We'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey everybody, how you all doing? Happy Monday. Easter's coming around, right around that corner. I didn't even realize how quickly Easter was coming. You know, it's like St. Patrick's Day came. I don't remember Easter ever coming, hang on one second, let me get just here. I don't remember Easter ever coming this quickly behind St. Patrick's Day. So I'm all thrown off with this. But anyway, it is coming next Sunday. I'm looking forward to chocolate Easter bunnies, and I actually do my own egg coloring, and we're going to make galactic eggs again this year. I love the galactic eggs. Anyway, my name is Charlotte. I'm the host of this show. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento. We're 45 strong up and down the state, and what that means is that no matter where you're at, we can get to you. It might take us a while, but we can get to you. In the case that it does take 1 or 2 days, because California, again, is a huge state, we do have people that can call you and talk to you about what may or may not be going on, and in most cases, they can settle the stuff down for you until we can get out there. Okay, really quick, want to give you guys a quick update. March 28th, Thursday, March 28th, 9 a.m. Pacific, is a Coffee with the Ghosthunter. And again, this is your chance to come on board and meet with me one-on-one. And we do it here on StreamYard, and it's a private room. And you can meet with me one-on-one and ask me anything about ghost hunting, and I will answer you. And if I don't have the answer, I will do the research and look it up and get a hold of you at a later time, or even in another show. Another meeting to let you know what I came up with. All right. As you can see, I've got this ticker running along the bottom, and we are getting out to investigate, and we're starting to power all this up again, and I've started to do some equipment checks, and it's not a lot of it, but some of the equipment needed repair. So because we're a nonprofit, I'm opening up for donations to try and get some of that equipment repaired before we really start getting deep into ghost hunting again. So if you could find it in your heart to help me out with that, you're not required. Okay, you're not required to. Don't get the wrong idea, but it would be very helpful if you could. And you know the addresses are down at the bottom. Okay, that being said, if you're watching from Facebook tonight, and a lot of you are, and you haven't done so already, please feel free to hit that follow button if you like what you see. Also, give us a thumbs up, some hearts, some happy faces, and feel free to chat in the chat room. And what that does is that puts us up higher in the FYP at Facebook, and that FYP is the master computer, and so it distributes us out to more people. Same thing with YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, there's more than 900 videos sitting at YouTube, all of the show, all different topics. I'm a journalist. I don't like to cover the same topic every night, so check it out. There's all kinds of topics under there. I'm sure you'll find something that interests you. And again, feel free to comment in the chat room. Like I said, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to leave us some thumbs up, some happy faces, and things like that. And that also goes for Twitch and TikTok and all the other places that we broadcast live as well. Again, that puts us up in the FYP on those networks as well, and puts us out to more people. And maybe while you're at home watching the show, maybe there's somebody else in the house that might be interested in the show, and call them on over. Say, hey, there's this cool little show out of Sacramento. I'd like you to take a look at it. And who knows, they might become a follower. Okay, so our show tonight, I have a really great guest tonight, Pastor Mark Biltz. And he's going to be talking about, hello Jerry, he's going to be talking about the upcoming eclipse, and he's got some predictions to make about some future events. So I'm going to bring him on right now so we can get this thing going, and feel free to chat amongst yourselves in the chat room, and I will try to answer your questions there as much as I can. Here we go. With my creaky chair. Hello, sir.
Why, hello. Glad to be on your show.
I'm really excited to have you on.
Well, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, my name is Mark Biltz. I'm 67 years old. I moved to Washington State from Kansas about 35 years ago. I live it up here in the Northwest. And I started a ministry about 25 years ago that was just with another couple in their house. And now we have about 250,000 people around the world. We're an internet ministry. And when I speak on the weekends, we'll have up to 200 cities and 20 nations live streaming. But then over the month, we'll have about 250,000 people.
Wow. That's incredible. And how long did it take you to build this up? I mean, it had to take some time because I know I'm here going on 4 years and I'm just starting to get up to that 1,000 mark on YouTube, you know?
Yeah, well, I did make some scientific discoveries back in 2008, and everybody was talking about it. And then when these 4 total lunar eclipses came in 2014, 2015, I had also written a book about it, and so many other people did as well about my findings. And so that's when we really went global, was back in 2008. And then, of course, when COVID hit, and there were a lot of places shut down, people were looking for a place to go. They found us. So we just went, crazy come 2014, 2015, the last 7 years, 8 years.
Very interesting. You know, it always fascinates me. I was reading your website. Always fascinates me to read stuff like that, and the work that you are doing.
Well,
Now, tell me a little bit, because I know you had some interesting things to say about this upcoming eclipse.
Yes, the one that's happening on April 8th is very significant. Do you remember the one from 7 years ago that went from Oregon all the way across the United States to South Carolina?
Right.
Well, the amazing thing, and I love math, I love science, I love astronomy. And I was doing research, and I found out there's only been 8 total solar eclipses that have crossed the United States since we become a nation in 1776. NASA records 12,000 eclipses over a 5,000-year time period. And here we've only had 8. Now, I'm not talking about clipping Florida or California. I'm talking about completely crossing the U.S., east to west, north to south. Those 8 total solar eclipses happened during the Revolutionary War in the 1700s, during the Civil War in the 1800s, during the Vietnam War in the 1900s, and now in the 2000s, we've had the one 7 years ago that completely crossed. And then this one is going south to north, and it intersects it on the biblical calendar. It's the first day of the month of Nisan. Now, where it intersects is in southern Illinois in a place known as Little Egypt. And it happens on the very same day as the original plagues of darkness began in the original Exodus, 3,500 years ago. And where it crosses in southern Illinois is a place that's known as Little Egypt. And there's cities all around it, Karnak and Thebes and Cairo and Goshen. And so I found it very fascinating. Even there's an Egyptian health hospital there. And the university has a pyramid and the god Horus as its logo. So I thought that was fascinating. But if you remember, October 7th, 8th is when Israel was invaded by Hamas. And a week later, there was an annular solar eclipse from Oregon going down through southern Texas. And if you think of the capital letter A, with Oregon being the top and the 2 legs, one going through Little Egypt, through South Carolina, the other one going down through Texas. It's amazing to me where this eclipse coming up on April 8th intersects that is in a geographical area known as the Texas Triangle, which is the #1 human trafficking place in the entire United States. And you think of the Egyptian slavery back then, and this is slavery, sex trafficking. And I thought it was very interesting that it crossed there. And there's even a city within that triangle called Jonah, and another city about 30 miles away called Nineveh. but there's a lot more to it. But I just wanted to throw that out there for your listeners.
Right. So what do you see going on? I mean, if with this eclipse, I mean, you mentioned that the wars back in the old days. Do you see this eclipse leading to wars or anything like that?
Absolutely. I see war on a lot of different levels happening. Number one, we already know there's going to be a big political war this election year between the left and the right. We also see, I believe, a religious war between the pro-Palestinians and the pro-Israelis. I also see another war between the anti-immigrants against the immigrants. All of these are coming at the same time, as well as a racial war, probably with the Black Lives Matter and the white supremacists. So I'm just saying, with our weak democracy, we are at the weakest point militarily we've ever been. I'm not even sure we're going to have an election. And I think there's going to be nothing but chaos that is going to be coming. Of course, with all the illegal immigration, you have a lot of single Chinese men. How does that happen? All these single Chinese men, military age, that are coming in. And so I see terrorist attacks also happening over the next, 8 months with, I believe we're going to have suicide bombers like they do in Israel. I just read an article. They just caught a Hezbollah terrorist in New York trying to make a bomb. And so talk about the chaos. If we can have all the terrorist attacks going on and then all the chaos of all the other political and religious and racial and immigrant wars going on, I really see this as a judgment coming upon our nation this year. And that's why I wrote my book, America at War 2024, that comes out next week.
Now, my question is, you're a pastor. How do you get these prophecies? How do they come to you?
Okay, well, what's fascinating is in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14, it starts how God created the sun and the moon, but it doesn't say it was for light. It says it was for signs or signals.
Okay.
Well, the signals would be eclipses.
Right.
And the problem with our Gregorian calendar, it's very scientifically accurate, but it's based only on the sun. The Islamic calendar is based only on the moon. But God said, let them both control the dating, the calendar. And so you have to put them both together, and that's eclipses. That's the signs they make. But then it also says for days, seasons, years, but our English is wrong. Okay, I know the Hebrew. And the Hebrew word there means like a divine appointment, or consider you're going to get married. Okay, you have to agree on the day. If you don't agree on what day you're going to get married, it ain't going to happen.
Right.
And so the years refer to like Shemitah years, Jubilee years, not 2023. And so when you look at what the Bible says, that God created them to send signals on the special days. You see, a solar eclipse can only happen on a new moon. And that's why he had Israel base their months on the new moon, so he could send them signals when things were coming. And then you can only have a lunar eclipse on a full moon, which is why they also put Passover and the Feast of Tabernacles on a full moon. And so when you see lunar solar eclipses happening on special days, you know God is trying to speak to us. And so it's just a matter of knowing how to interpret the signs.
Sure. Well, yeah, obviously, because the moon does control the tides.
Yeah. It controls a lot of things.
It controls a lot of stuff, yeah. It controls a lot more than people think it does.
Well, according to the math, and I love using math, I love using science.
Yes,
according to NASA, you can you only average one total lunar eclipse every year and a half. I noticed there were 4 total lunar eclipses in a year and a half in 2014, 2015. And I knew that lunar eclipses talk about Israel, solar eclipses talk about the nations. And when I saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, God's trying to talk to us. What is he trying to say? And so I looked at, when was the last time you have 4 total lunar eclipses in a year and a half? Well, it was 1967 during the 6-Day War. And the time before that was 48 when they became a nation. And the time before that was 1492 when all of them got kicked out of Spain. And so I knew war was coming to Israel. Well, guess what? You had 1967, the 6-Day War was in 67 at that very moment of those 4 blood moons. But also, it was exactly 7 years before 1973, the Yom Kippur War happened. And the Yom Kippur War was the first day of the 50-year Jubilee cycle. Well, it so happens the 4 blood moons in 2014, 2015 was exactly 7 years before this last Iron Swords War that just happened October 8th, which was the last day of the Jubilee year. So here, this 50-year time period is bookended with wars. And so that's exactly what I, saw happening.
Do you think, because you mentioned stuff happening over here, do you think that the U.S. is going to be drawn into any of those wars in the Mideast at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's solar and lunar eclipses happening over the next 2 years on highly significant dates. I see the whole world is going to be going to war. I would not be surprised, because we are so weak militarily, that right at our election process, where we may not even have an election, I believe China will be attacking Taiwan. North Korea could be attacking South Korea. Iran, Hezbollah could be attacking Israel. We got the Ukraine war going on. There's no way America can battle on that many fronts. And so people will take advantage of our weakness.
Well, it's true, and it is the other prophecies by Nostradamus about the Third World War starting in the Mideast. So it's kind of interesting, like you say, to see this stuff unfolding right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind we're going to possibly see the big Middle East war happen this coming April. I put it about 90%. If it doesn't happen, it will happen the next year in April, but it'll happen in April.
It's going to happen in April. Very interesting. And how can people prepare for it? I mean, because this is all going to happen. It's going to affect everybody.
Oh, it absolutely will. You're exactly right. I think the best way for people to prepare it, everyone can prepare a little bit for what they can for themselves. But if bombs are dropping all around your neighborhood and you leave, you can't take all that food you stored up with you very well.
Right.
And so I think everyone needs to be socially, physically prepared as best as they can. But the most important thing is to be spiritually prepared.
Is that the only prophecies you have, or are there other ones that you see forthcoming as well that we have to watch out for?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love prophecy. But I see, besides the Israel-Iran war, what I see that is going to happen, it will happen, like I said, in April. And that is based on a prophecy in the book of Daniel, where he's given a vision of the last days. And Israel's attacked in the month of Nisan, or April. But what's exciting is when you look at the next set of solar and lunar eclipses at when they come over the next 2 years, this is where it gets very interesting. Now, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with an ancient nation called Amalek, but Amalek was the first nation to attack Israel after they left Egypt. So God said, I'm going to have war with Amalek in every generation. Well, last generation was Hitler. Hitler was basically the Amalek of last century. This century, it's Iran and Hezbollah. Well, I think your listeners may have heard of everything that Hamas did to Israel. Well, Hamas is a type of Amalek. And Hamas was amazing. You're familiar with when Noah, his day with the flood,
right?
God said he destroyed the earth because of violence twice. That's why he did it. In Hebrew, Hamas means violence. That's what it means. And Amalek means a nation or a people group who chop people up. And that's exactly what they did. That is what their name means. And the Palestinians, they say, comes from the root word Philistines, which means invaders. That's what the word in Hebrew means, to be invaders. But what's happening, and I don't know how many of your listeners are familiar with the book of Esther in the Bible, but that brought about the holiday of Purim. And Purim is when Amalek was destroyed. Well, what's amazing the solar lunar eclipses over the next 2 years, the lunar eclipses are happening on Purim, 2 years in a row. And then they're also happening in the middle of the month of, let's say, August. It's like the month of Elul on the Hebrew calendar, which is a month of repentance. And then solar eclipses are happening 2 years in a row on the very same days on the biblical calendar, different on the Gregorian. But they're happening on Nisan 1, like this one coming up, which is the first day of the religious calendar, and then again on Rosh Hashanah, which is the first day of the civil calendar. So when you see these laid out, you find out the pattern is also in the very same order as when Israel went to war, because each tribe is assigned a month. And when you look at the months they're assigned and go back to the tribes, it means war for the next 2.5 years.
That was my next question. Now, once this stuff starts up, like you say, when we start getting the drive-by terrorist thing going on here and all that.
Oh yeah.
How long is all that going to last?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I really see there'll be people, suicide bombers, blowing themselves up in grocery stores, at gas stations, on bridges, and it's going to freak everybody out, wondering, is the person in the aisle, the other aisle you can't even see, going to do that, or at the gas station? So there's going to be a huge paranoia happening. But I think that this shows it'll happen for like the next 2.5 years.
Wow. So I can kind of see them going back to like 911 stuff now, where the Marines are there, and they've got their metal detectors and everything at the stores.
Oh, you're so right on. You're exactly right. This is what's going to be happening. And so people really need to be prepared for the chaos that is coming, and the heavens declare it. I believe in following what the heavens, as far as according to God's daytimer, so to speak, is declaring.
And what about food? I mean, let's talk about that, because if we all remember what happened when COVID started.
Oh my God!
And there was a run on the stores, and it was crazy. Is that what's going to happen with this? I mean, once this stuff starts going into motion, people are going to panic by?
Yeah, I think people need to have some food stored up for as long as they can. But for me, it's also to share with your neighbors, not necessarily to hoard. But I think people could come together and help each other. That's what's important. But I think food is going to be in short supply, especially when you see them shutting down a lot of the farming, and they're trying to, like Bill Gates is trying to buy all this land, and they're, with COVID, they were shutting down the farmers. It's all about power and control. And I believe the deep state is trying to get power and control so they can control everybody. I think we're headed toward a one world government and a digital economy very soon.
I was just thinking as you were talking about that, the Grand Canyon Caverns for years, and I don't know if they're still doing it, but I remember going down there as a kid, and the Grand Canyon Caverns had a food storage thing, and they had a lot of stuff stored in there. And from what I understood, it was for our government officials to go down in there, because they would have all the supplies. Now, I don't know if they're still there or if they're still doing that. But, there's got to be places like that where our government's going to take care of themselves before they take care of us.
Exactly.
So, you have this information, and you're trying to get it out to audiences like my audience and stuff. Has it been difficult trying to get people to listen to you at all?
No, as a matter of fact, I've already pre-sold 5,000 books, and it hasn't even come out for another week. Some people are buying 10 copies, 40 copies. It's just been insane, because they want people to be ready. For me, it's not about money at all. It's about the message. I want people to be protected. I want them to be forewarned, and we don't have a lot of time.
That's true. There isn't a lot of time. So what's your advice? Overall, what is your advice to everybody?
I would say my advice would be a couple of things. Number one, get on God's calendar so you can be forewarned. God always warns before he brings judgment, always. But you have to get on the calendar, not our Gregorian calendar, not the Islamic calendar, but the biblical calendar, which we have available at our website, esm.us. And that's where people can get the book too. But I think having an understanding of what's happening. I believe too many people are like the frog in the boiling water, or like they're sticking their head in the dirt, the ostrich.
Mm-hmm.
I think people need to wake up and jump out of the frying pan. I just really believe people are asleep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. What stands out to you the most about these predictions?
I see a lot of suffering, a lot of war and suffering, and so people, I really, I look at it this way. Just like you, I jokingly say we're a nonprofit ministry,
Right.
and I mean a nonprofit as well as a nonprofit.
Right.
But I see myself more as a weatherman, and I see a Category 5 hurricane coming, and we can always pray and hope it doesn't hit us. But it looks like we're going to be in the bullseye. And so just like they kind of prepare for a hurricane, but like if it's a huge tsunami, there's nothing you can do but run.
Right.
How do you prepare for something like that if you're on the coast? So for me, my main thing is I want to warn people. I see this coming. There is no doubt in my mind that this is going to happen. And so I just want people to let all of their friends know. And so they can, at least nothing else, be psychologically prepared. So when it happens, it won't be a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Better to be prepared than not.
Exactly.
Think of it this way: you'll have all kinds of extra food, right?
Exactly.
For those campouts. You've been doing this research for years, and like you say, you like to look at things scientifically.
Yes.
How long does it take you to do this kind of research?
A long time. Like I said, well, since 2008, I've been putting these things together. And I don't say that I know all the answers. I try to figure these things out. And sometimes hindsight's 2020. After things happen, I go, oh, that's what that meant. But then I can build on that to see what's going to happen in the future. Just like a detective tries to find patterns in the kidnapper or patterns in the crazy killer, Well, I try to find patterns in the Bible and in history and in the news to see if I can find the pattern so I can tell what's going to happen. Just like they do with tornadoes and hurricanes. They look at the patterns.
Sure. Now, talking about the Bible, and this is something that a lot of people ask about. What about UFOs? How do you feel about that?
Well, that means an unidentified flying object. I think we all have to believe in unidentified flying objects.
Sure.
So I'm all for that.
Like Ezekiel, right? We'll talk about Ezekiel a little bit.
Yeah, his wheel within a wheel, and the things that he saw. And he was grabbed by the hair and suspended between heaven and earth. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. What do you think he saw?
I think he saw like the glory of God and what was all around him. And I'm glad you brought that up because I want to bring out some of the other prophets and current events, because right now the big thing is to divide the nation of Israel, a two-state solution. That will bring judgment on America so fast, because the prophet Joel in chapter 3, verse 220, depending on which Bible you use, says God is going to judge every nation that tries to divide his land. And then in Zechariah chapter 1, it's this vision of the 4 horses in Revelation. And chapter 1 is the red horse, or the war horse. And in that vision, he sees these 4 horns on an altar, and he asked God, what is the meaning of these 4 horns? And God said, these are the 4 entities that are trying to divide the land of Israel. And then he sees these 4 craftsmen coming who are sawing off the 4 horns. And he says, who are they? And God says, these are my messengers that are going to come and terrorize those 4 entities who are trying to divide the land. I believe those 4 entities is the quartet that was founded in 2001, made up of the UN, the EU, the US, and Russia. And God said he's going to send terror. So terrorism is literally going to be coming to the United States because of our push for the 2-state solution.
And like you said, that stuff does repeat itself.
That's it. History repeats itself.
Right,
And they say the one thing we learn from history is that we don't learn from history.
Exactly. When you look at this stuff and it starts to come together for you, what kind of feeling is that for you? You know,
Well, I don't have a euphoria of, gee, I was right. For me, it's like, oh my goodness, I hope people were listening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have no happiness if I'm right.
Right. Because that's a lot of stuff coming up. It's kind of scary.
Exactly. And soon.
Nightmares. Yeah, soon.
Yeah.
So I have read Revelation, and I think out of everything in the Bible, I think Revelation gave me nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
And to hear your predictions, that gives me nightmares too, right? And I think it should give me nightmares because it's fair warning of what possibly could happen.
And that's why I give warnings. I give warning. Hopefully God can change his mind if enough people repent. But we've been a very immoral nation for a long time.
Absolutely. Now, that being said, let's talk about the end of times. Let's talk about God coming and making that choice and who's going to go and who's not going to go.
Okay. I don't know what you'd like to know, but I don't keep the book.
Right.
I don't know who's going to be
saying, as you were just saying, it's immoral times right now. It's immoral times.
Horrible.
So who do you see? I mean, you've got a lot of religions out there. You've got the Catholics, you've got the Christians, you've got the Baptists, you've got all these religions. And I don't want to single anybody out, but
no, I know.
Who do you see being fair game to be taken and it's going to get left behind?
Well, I think even among Christianity, there's a huge mess. I don't think Christians are going to be spared. A lot of people are only Christians in name only anyway. And as a matter of fact, there's some people from other religions that have a far better moral character than Christians, And so for me, it's all about the heart. It's not about some mental assent to some religious creed. It's your relationship to God himself. I mean, it's you have to love him. You can't just say, hey, I said the magic word, spun around 2 times and I'm good,
Right. Well, see, that's something I agree with you on that I believe, because growing up Catholic, my father wasn't very Catholic. My mother was. And so I did not do catechism. I was baptized, but I didn't do catechism. I didn't do any of that stuff. Yet in my heart, I'm one. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel, that I didn't have to do that because that's where my belief is and where I'm at. And I think that's going to be the deal breaker with people. The ones that just pretend.
I was also raised Catholic, and I even went to a high school seminary and studied to be a priest. Of my 5 older sisters, 3 of them went through the convent. Of us 4 boys, we had 9 kids. We were a good Catholic family, but 3 of us went through the seminary. And so anyway, so I'm very familiar with Catholicism. And then I changed into Protestantism at 19 years old and really upset my family. As a matter of fact, my dad put a gun to my head and said he was going to blow my head off. We came from a very strict Catholic family where we even had the Stations of the Cross in our house. We had holy water things by the light switches going into the bedrooms. I mean, we were very strict Catholic. So it was hard when I left the Catholic Church for my family. And then my dad was so upset I became a Protestant. But after 20 years of being a Catholic, 20 years of being a Protestant, well, then I went 20 years, or actually 35 now, into studying Christianity, so to speak, or Catholicism as well, from a Jewish perspective. I have relatives who died in the Holocaust. They're listed in Israel, the Holocaust Museum. So my ancestor was Jewish, and he ran off with a wealthy Catholic lady to America and left his wife. And I don't know if they even got married, but they ended up having my grandpa. And then he ended up leaving her, going back to France. And so my Catholic grandma raised my grandpa, or great grandma raised my grandpa, knowing that he was half Jewish, half Catholic. And then he raised my dad, or my grandpa, as Catholic because that's all she knew.
Right.
And then my dad, as a Catholic, married my mom, who was a Protestant, but we would do the Passover Seder to remember our Jewish roots. So I'm a mongrel.
You're a mongrel. That's pretty funny. As a mongrel, have you found it easier to talk with people of different religions about this stuff?
Absolutely, because I know the Catholic side, I know the Protestant side, I know the Jewish side. I've been studying that for 20 years. And so I'm able to, as a matter of fact, this is hard to believe, in our building, when we meet on the weekends, we have a dozen languages spoken in the building. I mean, usually on the weekends, you got your black church, your Chinese church, your Russian church, your Korean church. But we have all of those in our building, all of those languages. And we even have translation live in Russian, in Spanish. And then we have South Koreans. We have people from China, South America, all over Europe. And then we have every denomination. We have Catholics and Baptists and Pentecostals. I mean, they all come. So in our building, we used to have well over 1,000 people. But after COVID, we ended up moving into our TV studio. Yeah, sorry. And so with that, you know, we have all kinds of different people. And we can only fit like 100 people. But it's amazing that we have so many different denominations and ethnic groups that I know this has to be a God thing.
Man, it is warm in here tonight. I'll tell you. It's coming up.
Is that good?
It's just so hot here tonight for some reason. I'm really interested by your research. This fascinates me. And I'd like to know more. I mean, your process of going through, is it just the Bible that you're looking at, or are there different history books that you're going through to double check all this stuff?
Yeah, well, I use history books. I use NASA. Okay. I use technical websites. You know, I use all of those different kinds of things to, you know, do things.
To correlate it all.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think in all your research has been the most shocking thing that you found?
I would say the most shocking thing that I found was how accurate the Bible is with events happening to Israel, to the nations on the exact day of the biblical calendar. That's what's shocking to me. Even during Jonah, the actual Jonah Nineveh, there was a total solar eclipse 3 months before he came, which is why they repented so quickly. So I really see, even when Babylon was destroyed, there were solar lunar eclipses. In 70 AD, when the temple was destroyed, there were solar lunar eclipses all across the biblical calendar. 69, 70, 71. So the most shocking thing to me is how accurate the Bible is when you're on the right calendar and using eclipses to look at historical events. The pattern is astronomical.
Do you look at stuff by Nostradamus and people like that?
I'm familiar. Yes, I love looking at everything. I love looking at everything. And then I tell people I know how to eat chicken. I can eat the meat and throw out the bone. Okay. And there's bones in Christianity. There's bones in Judaism. There's bones. But that doesn't mean I'm going to turn down a T-bone steak because there's bone in it. So, so for me, the main thing is I love all resources and then I filter. It's just a matter of running it through the filter so I know, what is the best part.
Very interesting. I love to do research as a newspaper reporter. I just love digging into stuff to do that research. And
how fun.
I can understand where you're coming from, with all this, because once you start digging here, it leads to something over here, and then, it's like a rabbit hole.
How long have you been doing that?
Long time, since I was 18.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic.
Long time. And I love doing it. And so I would love to dig into stuff that, similar to what you're digging into, because it'd be fascinating to see those patterns.
Oh, I know. For me, I grew up on Nancy Drew books, and Hardy Boys and mystery books, and I always loved, I feel like a little kid in a candy store or out on the beach digging up treasures,
Sure, absolutely. So with the information that you gotten, it's wonderful that you're trying to bring word out to people to warn them ahead of time. Have you had the opportunity to talk with anybody in the government about this stuff, or no? Or are you just holding off on that?
Well, I believe people in the government may be familiar with it. One of the sometimes I talk to people who's a reporter at the government,
Okay.
so I know a lot of people. I'm talking to a lady who was with the United Nations, and she's coming to speak at our place here in several weeks. But for me, I've been on a whole lot of radio programs, a whole lot of TV programs. And I know the information gets spread around. I mean, some of our YouTubes will have 200,000 views, things like this. So I know I don't know who all it's going to, but it's a lot of fun, and I believe that the people who are supposed to get it are going to get it.
Now, you think about what you were talking about earlier about the drive-by stuff going on and the suicide bombers and all that. Do you think that could be helped if we have tighter border security?
Absolutely. We don't even have border security. I mean, even the FBI director, Christopher Wray, announced that, hey, there's flashing lights. We can expect terrorist attacks here in the United States. They've allowed too many terrorists to get through. It's horrible. They're not even guarding our border.
Do you think the people in the U.S. have grown too compliant? Because we've really never had that happen over here. So, I mean, that's why this is being allowed to happen.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Again, that's just it. I think, like I said, we're too asleep and we're too compliant. No one is standing up for their rights. They're allowing people just to drive right over them.
So what do you think needs to happen? Obviously the border, but what do you think needs to happen, government-wise, to maybe prevent this stuff from happening?
Throw them all out of office and start over.
Makes sense to me. Makes perfect sense. So, again, let's going back into your research. As you start to research this stuff and you start going down that rabbit hole, how long does it take for you, say, to research, the stuff about the eclipses?
Well, yeah. I have my ways of trying to do things as quick as I can, but it takes several years to really get a book put together and make sense. But I love doing the research. Like I said, it's what I breathe on. I mean, that's my my life. I love doing it. So even if it takes a long time, because I want to make sure my research is right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing is too, trying to, like you say, make it understandable for people.
Yeah, that's just it. You have to break it down. I don't want to be, I think there's two kinds of teachers. One that wants to get something out and one that wants to get something in. And I want to get something in, and I want people to understand it so they can run with it.
Because that always makes me think of like my creative writing classes, when you're writing stuff and you get the note back from the teacher with the WC on there, that occurs on there. Because you have to expand more to make people want to care about what you're talking about.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the one thing that I know draws people is what I call primal fear. I mean, if you're, no matter what your topic is, if you're afraid for your life, you're going to pay more attention if it hits you home.
Absolutely, absolutely. So where do you see everything heading? I mean, if we somehow survive, these wars, like you were talking about, like one government governing everything, kind of like Star Trek, the Federation.
Yeah, right.
Is that how you see it going, or do you see us going beyond that?
Well, yes, but what's going to happen is right now the big behind-the-scene war nobody knows about really is. It's between China and the United States. Who's going to control that one world government? And they are both fighting to be the one that's going to control it, especially with artificial intelligence right now and the satellites. There's so much going on in the artificial intelligent realm where they have all these fake news, fake people, fake everything. People don't really know what's true and what's not anymore. And that's kind of scary.
And I know, I'm not going to mention names or news bureaus or something, but there have been a few that have been caught.
Exactly.
Already.
Exactly. No,
using that stuff.
you're right.
How do you feel about AI?
Well, I think there's with everything, there's a good and a bad side. It's like the internet. There's a great side and an absolutely evil side. Well, I think with artificial intelligence, it depends on whose hands it is in. I believe we're governed by a lot of narcissists, who have kind of mental problems. They really think that, everyone should worship them, or it's all about control, manipulation, power, money. And that's what's sad, is that's who we have in a lot of our government offices. But then you have them from different countries, and they're all trying to destroy the other one so they can be on top. So, yeah.
Do you think, like with this one world government, that they're trying to find, like you were saying, you kind of said that earlier about to control the people, and there's a lot of talk about coming up with a living wage for people.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because what they want to do, they want everyone to be stupid, not involved, and just be happy with their government handout. And then they'll give you a VR headset. You can live in your pretend world and be happy, because they are trying to basically control us. You know how you have to have good credit to buy a house or a car.
Right.
Well, they've already come out in China, and I believe they're going to introduce it here, a social credit score. So if they don't like your Facebook, your TikTok, your YouTube stuff, they're going to not allow your credit card to work. Because when we go cashless and you only have a card to use and that's it, they won't allow you to fill your car with gas. They're already debanking people right now, not allowing them to have credit cards because they don't like their political stand.
I'm in big trouble. Seriously. With my material, I'm in big trouble with that.
Me too.
I was just thinking too about COVID and what we all went through during COVID. And I know there's a lot of test programs out for the living wage. There were a couple here, where I live. But I kind of think COVID was kind of a test for that.
Of course it was. Absolutely. You're right again. Right on target. I believe it was right before it was a rehearsal of what's coming. And I wouldn't be surprised if something even came right during the election to prevent the elections.
Because everybody got that unemployment money. Everybody was enjoying it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was, I mean, everybody got to see what it was like to actually make money. The people that were working for minimum wage.
Well, a lot of people were ripping off the system too, stealing them. Now they're coming after them.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think? I love this. I'm having a ball tonight. I love picking your brain.
Thank you.
This is fun to pick your brain. So look, getting back to this AI stuff, is it going to be harder and harder for people to tell what's real and what's not? Because, I mean, not only are they, writing captions for stuff, and they're rewriting news articles and they're doing all this stuff, they're also to the point where they have these robots now that can do normal work that a normal person that a human can do.
Yeah, so, they have even AI newscasters, AI robots writing the news. Oh my gosh, where is going to be the check to find out what is true and what is not? And there could be all kinds of horrible fake news that comes out, and everyone's going to believe it, and it's not even true. It's just to try to drive people a certain direction.
I kind of saw it, as a journalist, for as many years as I've been a journalist, I kind of saw it when they started to allow citizen journalists to do stuff online. And I remember a lot of people were mad at me because I came out publicly and said, look, I don't like this. I said, because real journalists are trained to look at both sides of the story and stay neutral and do their research. You get these citizen journalists, and it's all one-sided.
Exactly. Man, you are so right. That's exactly what the problem is. We have people that are politically one-sided. They only show one side of the story, especially when it comes to Israel and what's going on.
So that's that I told, early on, even before COVID, obviously, but I told everybody early on that's how I felt.
Yeah. Well, you're right.
It's all changing, and it's not changing for the good because of that. And the problem with the population is that the population will hear these people and go, okay, that's correct, and it's really not correct in the way it's done. And that's where you're getting this big division.
Yeah. Well, you were probably one of the best journalists in the time.
It's just that I've been around for a while, to see these trends and stuff. What do you think? What do you think eventually will happen with AI? Do you think it's going to take over everything, or you think, at some point we're going to, somebody's going to get sick of it and stand up and actually say, hey, look, we don't need this stuff because it's corrupting us?
I would hope that would happen, but the people that control it, I don't think will let that happen. I think the people that control it want control. They know, and we are such little peons when it comes to this. I mean, we don't have the power, we don't have the authority, but there's people above us that want to control us. That is going to be pulling all the strings. So I really see the AI eventually causing total chaos. I mean, it may be good for a little while, but it depends on who's pulling the strings.
Well, it's bad enough with Photoshop, for photos. But the stuff I'm seeing that's coming out that's being AI generated, to fix photos, that stuff's cool. It's cool, but it's dangerous at the same time.
Well, not only that, the AI generated voices are calling grandma using the granddaughter's voice and stealing them blind.
That's already starting. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. So what's next for you?
Well, I have a couple of other books in mind I'm thinking about coming out with. One of them is on the book Song of Songs in the Bible. The other one is about replacement theology, where Christians think they've replaced Israel, in the plan of God, as if they're the center of the universe. And that's not true.
Wow. And can you tell everybody where they can see you as far as your church?
Yeah, well, they can watch online because we're online every weekend live, but then they can go to our website, esm.us, and they can watch the services whenever they want to. But like I said, I'll have people in Australia, it's 4 a.m, and people in Ireland, it's 10 at night, and they're watching live. And I wonder why. You can watch it later, but they like watching it live. But they can also get my books at www.esm.us for United States. And that's where they can find out about everything that's coming over the next 2 years so they can prepare. We have that book, America at War 2024.
Well, let me ask you this. This is the question I tend to ask everybody. You're in Las Vegas, you're standing on the Strip, and there's some other people out there like you that have some prophecies and stuff to share. So how do you get people to come in and listen to what you have to share?
I think it's because I'm so different than any other preacher in the world. I'm not into a power trip. I'm not into money. In the 25 years I've had this, I've not once taken an offering, not once in 25 years. So for me, I think people like, because I'm genuine, I'm honest, and I'm not in it for the money. I'm just there to help people, but the fact that it goes all over the world, to over 100 nations, that watch, and it's people from every age group and every denomination. A lot of it has just been word of mouth. People, saying, hey, this guy talks about things that we've never heard of before in the church.
Now, if there's anyone in this world that you would like to contact and warn about this stuff, who would that be?
I would say all of the underdogs. All of those people who don't have the power, who don't know the things that are going on, let the rich have their problems. For me, I just got a heart for all the handicapped, for all of the blind, the deaf. For me, it's all the underprivileged are the ones that I would love to have be warned, because they're usually the last one to ever get the news.
Sorry about that. My dog just kicked something under there.
Hey, I've got 2 big poodles, so I know what that's like.
Yeah, she's in here listening underneath my desk to all this. I just wonder what they think. You know what? I love talking to you. It's been a wonderful time.
Well, thank you.
I would love to have you on again sometime.
All right. Well, I'd love to be on again. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. You have a great rest of your evening, okay?
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, that was a great interview. I would love to have him on to pick his brain some more. Well, we got some stuff coming up, and yeah, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna see some changes. I didn't make it to the St. Patrick's Day parade like I wanted to. The area where they hold it here has real cruddy parking, and so it's really hard to get in there. And from what I understand, there were thousands of people that attended this thing, so there's no way I would have gotten parking unless I went down there at like 5 a.m. to park, and then my parking bill would have been horrendous. But I do promise you guys, and I did that at the onset this year, when the year started, that we were going to get out and go do some live things. I'm still promising that. There's a couple places that I've been talking to about giving me access to go in and do some lives. You know, we have a really great zoo here. We have a couple other really cool places that we can visit. We got a real nice junior science museum that we can go to, and different things like that. And the events, you know, there's different events that we're going to try and get us to attend over here at the state fairgrounds and stuff. So I'm still working on that stuff, but it's just been a little slow, and we're going to start getting back. Like I said, we're going to start getting back into doing investigations. We have a prelim coming up this weekend, and we're going to start doing that, and I will go out live with permission, of course, from some of those investigations, because I really want to keep the identity of the clients on the down low, so just to keep it all nice and stuff, so nobody realizes where anybody's at and all that stuff. So that's all going to be coming up. And again, I want to remind everybody about Coffee with the Ghosthunter. That is going to be on Thursday the 28th at 9 a.m. Now, for people like my good friend Pamela, who lives back east or lives in Central Time, I'm thinking about doing maybe on a Saturday to do this, and do it 2 different times. Do it at 9 a.m. Pacific, and do it again later on in the afternoon for you guys, say around 3 p.m. Pacific, which for you guys would put it at what, 5 or 6 p.m. your time, to have coffee, so we can have that whole chat room thing going on. Because I have another friend that holds a get together like that, and what she'll do is she'll do an early morning one like at 7 a.m. my time, and then she'll turn around and do it again at like 3 or 4 p.m. So I'm considering doing that if you guys are going to be interested in attending these things, to where it's just to sit down, between you and me, just having idle chit chat and talking about anything. Could be paranormal, could be non-paranormal, could be maybe your car broke down this week and you're frustrated, kind of thing to chit chat about. Doesn't matter. I'm willing to talk about anything. I'm open to anything. All right. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Tomorrow we're going to be on at noon at Pacific, so go ahead and make a note of that. And my guest tomorrow is going to be Joanne DiMaggio, and she's going to be talking about the Beatles and how the Beatles. It's kind of a complicated thing, and how the Beatles, being involved with religion as much as they were able to bring some of that to the people that listen to their music. So it should be an interesting talk tomorrow with Joanne DiMaggio, and that is going to be at noon Pacific tomorrow. So just remember, okay? But for you guys that are working, of course, you can watch it anytime after it airs at noon. Okay, well, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to let you guys go a little early. It's really hot in here for some reason. I don't know why. I have the furnace off, but I think the house kind of got overheated today, which it does. I do have one thing to say. I want to thank my next door neighbor, because he came over today, and during the big windstorms, we had a big tree branch fall on the fence, and it came from our side. And the insurance didn't want to cover it because it really wasn't worth, I guess, their attitude, it really wasn't worth them covering. It was one of those deals. And he's been trying to get the insurance to help him with the part of it that landed on his side, and he couldn't do that. So today he decided that he was just going to cut it up. And so I get he comes to my front door, and he offers to take it off my side of the fence as well as his side of the fence. So I was real excited about that. So it's completely off my fence now, so I'm really stoked about that. And what that's leading into is the meditations that we do 3 times a week, which I want to increase to 5 times a week. In that, once I get my backyard done this year, because I'm starting really early with it, we're going to be meditating in my backyard with the babbling, with the fountain, and you'll hear the babbling water and everything back there, and it'll be really cool with all the lighting and everything. So you guys will get to really see my backyard and what I've done back there, and we'll be doing some live meditations on there. All right. Anyway, if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We are equal opportunity here at California Haunts Radio. We're just trying to get the word out about our little old show. But I want to thank you guys for coming tonight, and I hope for the people that came in, the new people, I hope you stick with us because we have really good shows coming up. All this week we're booked solid. We're booked solid into next week, starting to book in April, and yeah, we're just trying to keep the ball rolling here and get our name out there and all that good stuff. So I will see you guys tomorrow, and I want to thank Jerry and Marisa and Pamela for coming into the chat room tonight. I really appreciate it. And again, if you like the show, show me some love. Give me a heart, happy face, thumbs up, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, that's it, and I will see you tomorrow at noon Pacific. Have a great evening.